Hi, it's me, Galen. Galen's got Parkinson's. When we've been doing some videos recently about old Dungeons and Dragons figures and my first Dungeons and Dragons game, and we were in a conversation afterwards, and I was talking to Roland. If you're a subscriber, you'll find Roland's suggestions and comments, and he was asking if I'd ever played this Old World. Now, I had, funnily enough, and I said to him, yeah, I have. I'll dish it out, because I bought this in 1992, and it just straight into my fantasy world. Now, you might be wondering why, if I'm going to show you my original copy, I'm not showing you a better picture. Well, I am going to show you a better picture now, and you will see exactly why I selected to. I'll get rid of that. I've been cleaning up some glue. Forget. Don't worry about that. Why I didn't show you the whole thing? Because it was in a garage and my set it. So a bit of it disappeared. Now, I started with my role-playing games properly in 1978, when I ordered an edition of the Sorcerer's Cave, Avalon Hill game, and I ticked the wrong box. Well, that's what I've always assumed, because what arrived was the Tomb of Horrors, and I'd never even heard of Dungeons and Dragons. Now, I got married in 1979, and it arrived shortly before I got married, so I'm saying I got it in 79. It was published in 78, and I played it avidly. I've got the Dungeon Master's Guide and I've got the Player's Guide, both of which I've done the Dungeon Master's Guide. I'll perhaps do the Player's Guide next, and they're full of notes and charts and tables that I started writing in the 70s and 80s. But I've always tended to create my own world, so my Dungeons and Dragons game was never just a dungeon. Every game led to develop a world that got larger and larger, and it became known as Jural. And the world of Jural, we still play in it. I've got maps, I've got links of videos I've done. I'm going to put some at the end of this. Now, when I open it, the thing you'll notice, apart from me knocking that box over, is the World of Jural player section, which I wrote in it immediately I bought it. And the other thing I've noticed from doing this is I can't have got it in 1992, because my edition is from 1995. And here, as I open the book, it's quite clearly got me writing Jural in the left-hand corner. Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, The Old World. So I instantly dropped it into Jural, and it became the way that the magical universities in Jural, who were all on an island and they reflect the colours of the rainbow, used the magic from Old World. The guilds, they're far more like medieval guilds in Jural, but some adapted from what I learned in the Old World. Some of the races in the Old World are in Jural. So Skaven, for example, Wood Elves. But my Wood Elves possibly a bit more Tolkien-esque. My Dwarfs a bit more Norse mythology. My Trolls more Norse mythology. My Barbarians are more like Robert E. Howard's Sumerians, Conan and people. Red Sonja, which, if you've not seen it, I've just watched the recent film of Red Sonja. What a cracker. So I immediately wanted to use Jural. I wanted to use the Old World in Jural. But I'm not apologetic, that's what I do. So, but what I did find was interesting between the Old World and Dungeons and Dragons is that in the Old World, you begin as a relatively minor, insignificant person. Sven tried hard not to be tense, but it was difficult. And down here we got Elizabeth. What was the scribe thinking now? All through their journey, she had chattered endlessly about her work at the university and her plans for the future. Suddenly, that future looked remote. And as you carry on to the end of that section, if you don't know, so some of you really, I know this happens better than me, but if you don't know, it ends with, at the end, and I'll just, it says, right at the very, very end, I'll hold it up for you. It's the last paragraph. I'm going to wobble, so you're welcome to my world. Sven's adventures are just beginning, and now you can begin your career as an adventurer in the old world. The setting for the Warhammer fantasy role-play game. In this book you will find all the rules and information you need to play this exciting game of heroic magic and swordplay in an easy-to-follow format. Read on, for this is where the adventure starts. Now, for me, it wasn't. My adventure had started years ago in the 1960s with fantasy worlds from which I never evolved. So I dropped all these things into what I was already doing. So I'm thinking now it might be better to just review. Well, I'm not reviewing it because that would suggest I'm going to pass judgment, and I'm not. But if you don't know the old world, it has 7 sections about the world, and I would say, depending on whether you do what I do, which is my own fantasy world, the 7th section is not really relevant for me, and the 8th section is almost like a dungeon, the Oldenhaller contract. So section 1 is the players section, and it's a way of developing a character which is slightly different to Dungeons and Dragons, but equally has similarities. So you've got career classes, you've got skills, and again, that's determined in a different way. When we started playing Dungeons and Dragons, you would have people who, I'm always a cleric, I'm always a wizard, I'm always a dwarf. It was never developed. What I've done more recently in my world of Jural is I say that magic is more typical for a human. So a human character, when they've been created, you throw a d6. If you get a 6, you have magic ability, but then you've got to go to the magical universities on the mysterious islands to be trained. And that's like going through secondary school and then university and then getting a doctorate. So you don't know lots of things if you... and it relies on money. So you have to have a certain income to be... It's like a private school. So there are lots of characters who throw a d6 who have then, when you check, come from slave backgrounds. So they're working classes, or their dad's a fisherman. They're not going to send them to the Magic University. But they've still got the sort of raw, basic magical talent. So that can come out in other ways. I throw a d10 for elven characters. They've got to get a 0. And a d10 for dwarfs. And for orcs and goblins for shamanic magic, you've got to get a 20 on a d20. So I make it progressively more difficult. And you're only one character, remember. But there are sort of ways of choosing and developing career classes. And there's a career progression in this. Then we've got the Games Master section, which is really, for most of us who played a long time now, teaching a new game. It's like, this is what a Game Master does. These are the tests you do, and then but it's here you find things like a poison, disease, insanity as injuries for you as the game master to then translate and pass on to the player who has suffered the insanity. You've got non-combat characters, non-player characters. You've got combat, and then we've got a combat section, which is position, direction, rounds, initiative, surprise, etc. Winning, losing, fleeing, combat, special, missile fire, wounds and recovery. So that's the whole combat section. Then you've got a magic section, which is huge. then this is a nice touch if you haven't got your own religion and belief. It's always something I struggled with. I mean, as a Christian, that's just I am. So having various demonic religions or pseudo-Christian emblems in fantasy worlds that I get invested in has always been sometimes it's been a moral issue, sometimes it's been a thorny issue, sometimes it's not been an issue at all. But I'm mentioning it, I'm just saying, honestly, he pays your money, he takes your choice. It's not everybody's cup of tea. Some people couldn't give me monkeys. Some people less stupid than me see it at face value and don't read anything into it. Well, I'm just being honest. What can I do? You can shout at me for a lot of things, but honesty I'm always going to tell you the truth, even if it's you think, what? Well, unsubscribe, lunatic. That's me. Yep, there you go. There's a bestiary. That's nice. And then there's a world guide, which has got like a history of the world. So we find all sorts of the old world, the Badlands, the Wasteland, the Empire. Now, I don't have any of that in Jurel, but I do have history books going way back where the elves have got a creation story and the dwarves have got a creation story. I do things like, this is just for fun, but please don't think you've got to, I'm not saying you should be doing this, but I do things like occasionally after a battle, I might write a poem, a heroic epic poem in a dwarven style, and then I might write the same events in an elven style, so other people can read them and see the difference in the general approach to the world. I nearly said something there about something that's bugging me, and I'm not going to. I will do it at some point, but not today. So then we've got the Oldenhaler contract, which is a role play, and then in here, look, there's a nice map of the old world. Woo, I'm going to have to get this chair fixed. I'm moving property soon, and my wife said I can have a new chair because this one only works when it's leaning against that wall. And right behind there is my really expensive guitar, and I very nearly fell in it. So that's the world. See the prices I go to entertain you lot. And it's a big old beast of a book. I suppose if you put the two dungeon books, Dungeon Master's Guide and Dungeons and Dragons game books together, they'd probably be about that thick. But it's just a weighty tome, and it's got some nice illustrations in it. Well, I tell you, you've seen that there, look. That chap with the dots on. That's not like an acupuncture chart. That's where you hit him. So throw percentage dice, and 0 to 15, you hit him in the head. And I have, from that, created my own look. And I do mine on a D20 because it's quicker. So I've done my own D20, throw a D20, and then it tells you I've got a 9. Ooh, what's a 9? It's my chest, or I'm shot in the back, it's my upper back. Oh, I've been shot in the back, and then I'm going to get 12. Oh, I've got a 12. What's a 12? A deep wound, and I cannot move without assistance from a colleague. I'm down here now. So that's what I've done, and I've did it as a result of that. So I know what you're thinking. You're thinking this is too slick and professional to be Galen's normal way of doing YouTube. And I'm sorry, it's been a very academic and calm production. I can only apologise. Sometimes we have to be serious and we have to apply ourselves intellectually to meet the needs of our sponsor, who in this case is Mr. Ted. So, we're still within the 12 days of Christmas, so I am well within my legal rights as a proud northern Englishman to say, ho ho ho, happy Christmas.